Heart of Glory once again brings us back to Season 1 of TNG, a season containing approximately 3,000 episodes in my experience. Every time I think, oh, we've got to be close to the end, I look and find so many more that are yet to go, it's shocking. Even as I look at them, they seem to blur. I'm like, did I review this one? I think I did, but no, I'm not so sure. Is my TNG past somehow becoming unmade? Am I actually dead and just doing the same thing over and over with no memory of it? At this point, I can't dismiss that. Well, with that existential crisis behind us, on to the episode. Heart of Glory begins with urgency, which we can tell because in these days the music actually made the point clear. The Enterprise is responding to a battle that took place in the neutral zone, so they race to the edge, and they do indeed find evidence that there have been weapons fired.
Sir, I have analyzed the residue from the explosions. This is of no known Ferengi design. It is possibly Romulan.
Now there's a name we haven't heard for a while.
Yeah, it's been a good 6 episodes since you were poised to respond to Romulan battleships, yeah. And by the insufferably slow and tedious Season 1 standard, 6 episodes probably translates into decades. Well, they find the ship, the Battress, and it is in trouble. Just about everything is broken and life support is failing, so they're going to head over to help. But with the possibility of Romulans around, Tasha is going to have to stay at her post, so it's Data and Geordi that are going to join Riker's away team. This episode was put together in a hurry. Maurice Hurley whipped it up on the fly, and that shows in 2 ways. The first is Geordi's trip over to the ship. Why him, after all, when his current job was as navigator? It's a situation that would require either an engineer, medical, or Worf's strength. Well, the reason is because they need to fill out the runtime sum, so they're going to talk about how Geordi's visor works. Not a complaint, just a note that this is clearly and obviously just here as filler, as normally devoting this much time to it would be because it would pay off later on in some way. But no, Geordi is not going to use his special ability to spot some detail that will wind up averting some kind of crisis. This just fills time. So Geordi announces that he's hooked a doohickey up to his visor to transmit whatever he sees back to the Enterprise, to blow up on their view screen. So good thing that Tasha is staying here, or there would just be nothing but covert glances at her ass. So they show up on the Battress, and Geordi switches it on. That is just a disproportionate response to what is half dropping acid and half letting a monkey play with the filters.
Now I'm beginning to understand him.
Extraordinary. Now I'm... Olivier said I was born to play Richard III. Now look at me! Look at me!
That's Commander Riker!
To me it's just an undefined form.
Hey, I've been hitting the gym.
There's an aura around him.
Well, of course, he's an android.
And that means Geordi will never be fooled into thinking an android is a human. No, sir.
Sir, I hate to break this up, but,
Oh yeah, the mission of life and death where every second counts. Maybe we should stop jerking off and actually get down to it. I think the experiment might have been better on a less time-sensitive mission, don't you? Anyway, on with the rescue.
what's the safest way around? All routes are equally dangerous, sir.
Well, what's the least dangerous route, Data?
Perhaps you don't know what equally means.
Closer. It looks to me like a spectrograph indicating metal fatigue.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Is that how you interpret it?
Very good, Captain. Exactly right.
How long before this hull ruptures?
It's impossible to be exact. I'd say 5 minutes. Probably less.
How much time should we spend standing here waiting for that to happen then? Finally, the device gives out, so perhaps we can now focus all our attention on the dying. They find the door, wedged only partly open, or wedged only partly closed, depending on whether or not you're an optimist. And they ask Riker to please not vaporize it given all the volatile gas around them. It would open the door, but probably would open them too.
We're about to force the door.
That look. Yeah, we are forcing the door, lazy human. They find Klingons inside in full battle armor, a surprise given that this is an alien cargo ship.
He is alive, sir, but just barely. Then pick up the body and let's get out of here.
No! I will carry him.
No one carries the bride over the threshold but me. They grab and make a run for it, but Tasha, who is for some reason operating the transporters, says they're too close to the engineering section.
The engineering section is critical. Destruction of the Batteries is imminent.
Never mind that. Can we get Geordi's visor back on? I want to look at all the sparkles some more. Tasha tries beaming them back, but it's touch and go for a while there. Apparently standing around playing with your new toys was a bad idea.
Bridge, this is Commander Riker.
Fuck you, sir. Fuck you right in your stupid face. The trio of survivors are brought to sickbay, and Picard and Worf come down to see what's what. This is when we transition to the new plot, which is about Worf. This is very significant because until now, Worf's primary job has been to be there. Worf's greatest contribution is usually to suggest something direct, and everyone rolls their eyes at the barbaric Klingon before suggesting something stupid that won't work and likely get someone killed. Worf isn't even mentioned in the series Bible, so I can't even say how much of this was planned and how much is Maurice Hurley just winging it to fill out the script. Alright, I got the farting around with Geordi. That'll deal with about 15 minutes or so. Now, Worf, he's here because he was raised by humans. Yeah, sure, why not? Again, this was all whipped up at the last minute here, so Worf's lucky that he was just adopted by humans and not, say, a circus performer or a bad driver or some other off-the-cuff justification for why he wound up being here in Starfleet. I was hitchhiking on my Klingon gap year, and one thing led to another. The Klingons introduced themselves as Chorus and Conmel, and they are indeed with the Klingon military. They say the ship was taking them to an outpost when those vicious and bloodthirsty Ferengi attacked, driving them into the neutral zone. Which is like saying you're stealing a laptop because you thought you saw a zombie and needed to bash its head in. What's more, the weapons weren't Ferengi, so Chorus amends that to say the Ferengi were equipped with Klingon weapons too, and then he pulled a trick to draw in the Ferengi and destroy them. There's holes in that story that you could see without needing Geordi to hook up his visor and waste 10 minutes, but Picard doesn't pursue them yet, and lets Worf escort them to their guest quarters. The third of their party, though, doesn't look so great. He's going to be staying here. Sucks to be him, I guess. So how do we set these holograms to give us Orion strippers? They ask the obvious question. How is there a Klingon serving in Starfleet, and how much shit can we give him over that? They mock him, but apparently just to see if he's still got some spine to him, which is more than we can say for the guy dying in sickbay. So his buddies come down. They must have seen the bill. Now that they're done with that, they take a few things off the corpse and tell Dr. Crusher that she can toss in the trash can or whatever. They're done with it. Conmel slips up before Worf and admits that their buddy wasn't killed by an enemy. But Chorus isn't convinced to tell the whole story yet until Worf explains himself. So Worf tells about Khitomer, his father's death, and being adopted by the Starfleet officer who found him. He spent little time among Klingons, living on a farming colony, and Chorus gives a little speech about the call of the wild sort of stuff that Klingons have, which Worf admits to. But he follows up by taking his control as a sign of strength, that he can feel these things without allowing them to take over. The two are impressed by this and so admit what happened, that the trio commandeered the ship because they resent the peace treaty.
and we were in search of a place where we could live our lives like true Klingons.
Eating and belching. The ship they fought was Klingon, making it all the more impressive victory. I defeated a warrior race sounds a lot better than I defeated a bunch of salesmen. Data explains the yelling that they witnessed. In sickbay, I mean. Generally, their Klingons explains any yelling that they get up to.
That was the first time outsiders have witnessed the Klingon death ritual. It was a warning.
To whom?
They are warning the dead, sir. Beware. A Klingon warrior is about to arrive.
Eating and belching. Well, speak of the devils, they've been detecting an approaching ship, and sure enough, it's the Klingons, come to collect the criminals. This forces Tasha to ask which of her two jobs should she be doing right now, staying at tactical in case the Klingons get trigger-happy, or lead the security team to apprehend the Klingon criminals on board and possibly deal with a Worf with uncertain allegiances. Picard picks security, on the grounds that under her leadership, Enterprise security is absolutely awful. So if she's there personally, maybe they can mitigate that at least a little bit. The commercial comes with Worf having to choose between Tasha and the Klingons, but things get uncomfortable when a kid runs out and Chorus picks her up. Tasha assumes that she's been taken hostage, but Chorus instead gives the kid to Worf, because it's not their way, Worf says. Then again, he doesn't have a whole lot of first-hand knowledge of Klingons. It's kind of like me interceding based on my understanding of Gorgons. Read a little bit in books, but that's about all. Worf asks if he can speak to the Klingon captain and pleads their case. And the captain does sympathize with the cause, but they can't do anything other than try and execute them. I mean, give them a trial and execute them. I think if they try to execute them, they would succeed. Anyway, it's understandable why they would have to do that. The unity of the Empire isn't as strong as it seems. Anything that could encourage the hardliners or be taken as a sign of mercy could cause a whole lot of problems, maybe even civil war. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a civil war anyway, but... well, never mind. The Klingon prisoners have taken a page from the A-Team and are piecing together weapons from all the various kibble on their uniforms. They then escape, although it's fairly clear that this is an awful brig. Basically, it's just a room that's got a force field on the door, so when they breach it, boom, right into a corridor for a quick escape. Conmel is killed, but 2 of the security officers are dead, and I stand by my position that security is awful.
It is not a disgrace to request our assistance.
I think we can handle the situation.
What Picard is probably thinking is, one-armed Klingon running around is bad enough. The last thing we need is a whole squad of these trigger-happy nuts. Chorus heads into engineering, meaning that he can blow up the ship if he shoots the warp core. And, he probably would be inclined to, going out in a blaze of glory and all that.
I could not do it alone. But I would rather die here than let the traitors of Kling pick the meat from my bones.
That's right, the planet was originally called Kling. For some reason, that never stuck. Perhaps because it sounds incredibly silly. For the glory of Kling sounds like the battle cry of Snuggle Bear. Chorus wants Picard to give them the battle bridge, him and Worf, so they can head out together and terrorize people. Worf gives his own philosophy, though, about fighting the battle within and the importance of duty and loyalty, and finally just shoots Chorus. And they call that a death scene. So, now that we killed Admiral Forrest, there's just one thing left.
Mendoza!
Post-episode follow-up? Annoying character goes to the security guards for the continued pitiful display. No training better than Starfleet my aching ass. Final score for Heart of Glory, surprisingly, is 5 out of 10. A humdrum episode, but is buoyed up by the chance to let Dorn show just what he can do if you give him even halfway decent material to work with. Worf gets a lot of great bits in this one, and it's really where the foundation for his character is laid, especially for the later stuff, where his speech about overcoming the challenges within, that matters more, rather than being, werewolf. The Geordi stuff isn't bad, but it is ultimately just filler, and does seem to undermine the seriousness of the situation. Who knows whether that Klingons could have survived if he'd been brought back sooner, rather than waiting for Picard to fart around with his new toy.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Be or not a bee? That is the question.